Homish Harashi. All right. We are in the second portion, Parshas Emor. Let's get right into the Parsha. Okay. We're continuing speaking about Kohanim, the priests, and some of their duties. Vidaber Hashem, and Hashem spoke, El Moshe to Moshe, saying, Lamor, Daber, El Aaron, speak to Aaron. Aaron is the high priest. Speak to him. It's his brother. It's wonderful they're on speaking terms. And Lamor saying, Ish mizarecha, a person from your seed, for your descendants, l'doraisam, for generations to come, asher boimum, that will have a blemish, a defect. La yikrav lahakri, he shall not come close. Lechem elakav, to the food of God, meaning he shouldn't bring offerings. Rashi, lechem elakav, the bread of God. Michael elakav, food for God. Wow, food for his God. Ki seuda kriya lechem, because a meal is called bread, right? That's what, breaking bread. Um, as it says, Avad lechem Rav made a great feast. Okay, so he has ki called isha share boy mum, because any person who has a mum, a defect, a blemish, lo yikrav ish, that person should not bring approach, meaning approach the altar. Iver, a blind person. Piseach, a lame person. Becharum, a nose that's sunken. Bisarua, or mismatched limbs. That's Rashi, right? A man who has a blemish should not approach. In a badin shikrab, is it not proper that he should approach? No, go offer it to your ruler. Ah, okay. So okay. So this verse is redundant because we just said, right? So it's really giving an explanation of why, because it's not proper to serve the king with someone who's got, is lame, is blind, right? You're not going to have a blind butler serving the wine, you know, by way of example, right? It's not fitting. That's what it's saying over here. That's what the verse is, that Rashi is coming to explain, that it is, it's explaining the reason. Cherem, so a person is haram shechatmai shakua, that his nose is sunken in, between two eyes, that This applies to the color of his eyes also, that they're an unbroken. Oh, it means like the bridge over here. So it looks like he's got like one eye. Sarua. Sarua, one is enlarged. She'echad me'ivarav, one of his limbs, double, pairs of limbs. Gadol mechaber is larger than the other. Einai achas gedela, one eye is large. Ein achas ketana, one eye is small. Shesheke achas, or one of the legs. Aruba mechaberta is longer than the other. Right. So Torah is saying that that person not fitting to do the service. Right. Oy ish asher yeh by shever regel. Someone has a broken leg, or shever yad, or a broken arm. Oy, those things can change, of course, right? Meaning, after the arm is no longer broken, certain things might not be able to change because it's, you know, and therefore they will be permanent. Oy bain, the eyebrows are long. Oy tavlul be'enai, person has a cataract in his eye, or garuv. Um, the eyes is the color of the eyes. The lephis, dry that's dry boils. The ruach ashich, or oozing boils. I know. Ruach ashich. Sorry, crushed testicles. Oozing boils is yalephis, I guess. Okay, let's see. Well, Rashi's going to explain. We're in 20. Oy gibain. So this is about unusual eyebrows. In Old French is sourcilier. That the hair of the eyebrows are usually long, and it droops. Yeah, they droop over the eyes. They're very long. I guess it means you could cut it though, in this instance. Right. Oidak, he has a cataract, sheyesh boy be'enav doik. He has a film over his eyes, shikairim tila. It's called toila in Old French. Kamay hanaitek hadoik, like he spreads over like a film. Oitav lul, or mixing, dabra mevalva sa'ayin, thing that mixes the color of the eyes, kagain chut lavan, like a white strip. Hanimshach min halavan, that extends from the white of the eyes. Poisik basira, and cuts into the iris. Shu ogol, that is round, that is a circle. Makiv seshachar, that surrounds the black part of the eye, the pupil. Shekairin prunel, in Old French. Achen, this strip, poisik is egel, cuts the circle, v'nichnas b'shachar, and enters the black. V'targum tivalel chiles, and Onkelos translates it, chilozin, a type of sea creature. Because the strip is similar to the shape of the worm of the chilozin, as is the chilozin. So the sages of Israel explained it as Targum does. A blemish of the firstborn. Okay. Yeref Yelef, Minish Shchinheim, different types of boils. Garav. Zu a cherim. Garav is a cheres. Shechina yavan shemipnim and b'chutz is a boil that's dry on the inside and on the outside. The aleph is chazitz mitzis, is an Egyptian rash. Lamani across the alephis. Why is it called the alephis? Shemalapim is vahilechus because it becomes more closely bound to the sufferer until the day of his death. It's moist on the outside, and dry on the inside. Elsewhere, the word garav is used as a term in the Shechin halach mibachutz, as a boil is moist on the outside, and dry on the inside. Emor says, okay. Last Rashi, merayach ashach, a crushed testicle. The Targum meiris pachtan. Onkelos translates it. These are terms that first time that we're using. Pachtan merusosin. The testicles are crushed. That's how he translates it, right? Shebeitzim shaloik to hushim. Pachtan kamoy. Yeah, so the word pachtin means testicles. Okay. 21. And any person who has a blemish, a defect from the descendants of Aaron, a kayin, la yigash la'akriv, he should not come close to offer Ishe Hashem, the fire of God, Mumbai, as a result of the defect that he has, because the bread of God, of his God, he should not come close to bring, to offer. So it seems to be repetitive. Let's see Rashi. Anybody has this blemish, Rabbi Shar. Aha, kol, because now it says all. Before we gave details, now it says any blemish. That means to include other blemishes that were not delineated here. Okay, so obviously we need to, what does it mean all then? What does it mean to include? Right, Mumbai, that he has a blemish upon him, but Mumbai Pasul. So Rashi said when the blemish is still on him, he's disqualified. Mumbai, but if the blemish passed, Kasher, he's fit for, right, he's fit. Like I gave you the example before of broken arm, right? Broken arms for a limited time. Afterwards, he can then serve it, be of service. How do we know that? Because I said it earlier, but it's based on these words here that the blemish is on him, right? Meaning the blemish isn't on him anymore. The arm isn't broken. So in other words, if you broke your arm, it's not a permanent blemish. Okay. Lechem elokav, the bread of God, kol meichel, all fukrei lechem. Not clear why the repetition. Okay. Lechem elokav, the food of his God, Mikodshe HaKodshim, that is of the superior, holy of holies, meaning the superior level of holiness, Omin HaKodshim Yechal. But from the lesser sacrifices, Yechal, he can eat. Oh, so he can't do the service, but from the offering, he can partake. Remember that the offerings, like a sin offering, for example, part of it is given to the kohen to eat. Some of it is burnt on the altar. So could he eat from it? So this verse is saying yes, he can't do the service, but he can have the benefit of the food. Rashi, Mikochi Kochim, from the Holy of Holies, Eli Kochim Hakadoshim, these are the higher level degree of holiness, like a sin offering, for example, by the way. And also from the holy, meaning Eli Kochim Kalim, these are the lesser degree of holy offerings. So Rashi says, if the higher degree is permitted to him, even though he's got a blemish, he can partake in the food. Why does the verse have to say for the lesser? Obviously, we would learn from a Kal V'chomer, all the more so, right? It seems repetitive. Had it not stated, you say, Emor, I would say, because that the blemish kohen can eat from the higher degree of holiness. So we found a precedent that they were permitted for the non-kohen to eat it. Because Moshe, who was not a kohen, ate from the flesh of the breast of the inaugural offerings of a b'chazak v'shoig, but the breast of the leg of the kohen's portion, which is a lesser degree of holiness, the a blemished kohen would not be able to eat it. Because we don't see anywhere that a non-kohen would have a part in it, right? In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he did the 7 days of inauguration before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which was inauguration day of the sanctuary and of the altar, we see that he partook in the greater degree of holy things, even though he's not a kohen. So maybe, in other words, so we see from that a precedent that maybe only that in that instance, Torah is giving the permission, but a lesser one, no. So that's why the verse here had to say, including the lesser one, that the kohen who has a blemish may also eat from it. He can't do the service, but he can eat from it. Okay, 23. However, Ela pareiches lo yovei, to the pareiches. Pareiches is the curtain that separates between the holy and the holy of holies. He should not come. Ve'ela mizbeach lo yigash, and to the altar he should not come near. He should not approach. Ki mumbai, because of the disqualification that's upon him. Lo yichalis mikdashi mikadshai, and he should not profane or defile my holiness, ki ani Hashem mikadsham, because I am God who has sanctified them. Okay, Rashi. Right. What is this adding over here? Because we already said he can't do the service, right? But to the curtains he should not come. To sprinkle 7 sprinklings of blood. That is on the sprinkling of the pareiches. In other words, this is part of the sacrificial procedure, the sin offering of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, that's brought on behalf of the entire nation. The bull and the he-goat that's brought in the sin offering on Yom Kippur. Now this is speaking, I guess, to the Kohen. Not clear on this, because if the Kohen Gadol is, the high priest has got a blemish, right? So then, Okay, let's go further because not clear. And other words, he can't do this service, the high priest, if he's got a blemish. Okay. In other words, this is not an offering, right? It's sprinkling the blood. Well, it's part of the offering, though. Okay. Ela mizbeach, and to the altar he shall not approach. Achitzon, this is speaking the outer altar, Shneim, and both of them, both statements of the outer altar and about the pareches, hutzacholi. So Rashi said they have to be written. In other words, you would be able to derive one from the other. The first B'Teres Kanim is explained in the Medrash. He's not going to explain it to us, and neither will I, right now at least. Al Yichal is mikad shai. Do not defile my holy service. Shema that if he performed it, avoid is mechuleles. So the question, and what this is adding now is, what if the person who is not supposed to do this did it? What's the status of what you did? Now, you did something wrong is one thing, but is what was done valid? No. That's what these words says, because you've defiled my holy service, meaning the service becomes defiled if you did it in these circumstances, the apostle to become disqualified. Okay, beautiful. Okay, Vidaber Hashem Moshe el Aaron, and Moshe spoke to Aaron, Ve'elbanav, and to his sons, Ve'elkol b'nei Israel, and to the entire children of Israel. Rashi Vidaber Moshe HaMitzvah Zois. What did he speak? This mitzvah that he was just commanded, right? Now, he doesn't say what he said, right? El Aaron b'nei Israel. So he spoke to Aaron's his sons and to all the children of Israel. Lahazir based in. Why? What does it mean to the children of Israel? This is to alert the court and make them responsible of Kohanim regarding the Kohanim, that they should keep the commandments that they have in the appropriate manner. Okay. Okay. We're chapter 22, verse number 1. Vidabra Hashem al Moshe Lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber el Aaron, speak to Aaron Be'elbanav and to his sons, and they have to, Inozru means to abstain, mikoche, from holiness, mikoche b'nei Israel, from the holiness of the Israelites, v'lo yichal l'shem kochi, and they should not profane the name of my sanctity, right? Desecrated, asher hey mikachim li, that they are sanctifying to me. The Ani Hashem, I am God. Okay, what is this talking about? So like the nozru, right? To abstain or to withdraw. Ein nazira el aprisha. The word nazira means to separate. Like a nazir is someone who is separating himself from others by not eating, by not drinking wine, right? We had that. We will have that in later on. Similarly, it says, he severed himself from me. He's just giving me examples of the word. In Nazru means to separate. So really turn around the verse and, it says that you should withdraw, separate, which is holy from of the Israelites, which they consecrate to me, so as not to defile my holy name. Okay. Asher hein mikachim li, that they are consecrating to me, l'rabes kachim kohanim atzmim, that they are sanctifying. That's even not just Israelites, even though it's speaking about what the Israelites are sanctifying, right, for the sanctuary, but the kohanim themselves, what they also consecrate. Verse number 3. Emor aleim, say to them, for future generations, all generations, kol ish, any person, asher yikra mikol zarechem, that will offer from all of your descendants, el hakadashim, asher yakdishu, right, that they will offer a holy thing, that they will sanctify Bnei Israel, the Israelites, La Hashem, for God. In other words, it's speaking about an Israelite who's bringing an offering, right? Betumasai olav, and his impurity is still upon him, that person will be cut off from me, meaning, premature death, right? I am God. So this is speaking about a kohen. Let's say a kohen came in contact with a corpse. He's impure, right? Or let's say he even touched a carcass of an animal. He's impure for the day. He has to go to the mikveh. What happens if he did the service with impurity? Before we're speaking about physical things that were not fitting for the kohen to be of service, which, by the way, didn't say he was cut off. But here we're talking about spiritual impurity, and you are cut off from God. Let's see Rashi. Interesting. Any person will make an offering. What does this mean? What is this coming near speaking about? It means eating. Right? It doesn't say what you're doing over here. In other words, an Israelite is bringing an offering, and the Kohen is doing the service, right? But he has impurity, right? He didn't, as I said, let's say he came and he touched a, carcass of an animal. He's impure for the day. He can't do the service. So here it's speaking about what did he do? He ate from, let's say it was a sin offering, which a kohen eats from, and he ate it. So, but even though it says here that he doesn't offer, doesn't sound like, it doesn't say the word eating here, but Rashi is saying it means that the prohibition is he ate the kohen when he was impure. And how do we know that? Because we learn from the term over here. Similar phrases said earlier in chapter 12, verse 4. And so we make a parallel with over here, and it means in eating. The Ev Shalom. It's impossible to say that the verse is on Nagia, that it means that you would get cut off from God, a premature death, by merely touching the animal. Right? Because premature and being cut off from God, right, is only when you ate something sacred when you were impure. Only when you ate. Because that we learned that earlier, when it spoke there in Parshat Tzav, the second Torah portion of the book of Vayikra that we're in. We learned it over there. So, and if just touching the meat of the animal would make you being cut off from God, then it wouldn't have to speak about eating. But it's speaking about eating and not touching. Touching it, not allowed to do that, but it doesn't come with a liability of being cut off from God. So we learn it out in the Medrash this way, that someone who touches something that's sacred in a state of impurity, I'm going to the next Rashi. Tumasei olav, and its impurity is upon him. Tumas Adam Allah, the impurity of the person is upon him. Yachal calls Medaber. You might think that the verse is speaking of the flesh of the offering, and it means Tumas shall basar Allah, that the impurity of the flesh is upon him. And the verse would be speaking of one who is pure, who ate meat of an offering that became impure. Therefore it says, the implication is it's speaking about one whose impurity can depart from him. That's the person. He can be immersed in the mikvah. It says now. It says it's the impurity is upon him. Maybe that means the meat, right? As opposed to the person, because meat that's holy can become impure, and then it needs to be burned. It's not right. It's not fit for the offering. You might think that that's what it's talking about, but it's not. It's speaking about the person, that he became defiled. Because that person became defiled, he can now go to the mikvah and immerse himself and become pure. In other words, it's speaking about something that can become pure afterwards, and that's the person as opposed to the meat. The person will be cut off. I might think cut off on this side and on that side. You be cut off from his place. And he should be settled in another place. In other words, cut off meaning maybe it means that you have to exile yourself from the community that you're in to another place. The verse is, Ani Hashem, I am God, b'chol makom ani, and everywhere. Meaning, he's cut off from God and God's presence. He's not cut off from, right? Meaning, I'm God, meaning God is present, meaning he's cut off from the entire world through premature death. Interesting. Why over here? That's how Rashi explains that over here, as opposed to, okay. Okay, we got a truck over here. Oh boy. Okay. Ish means a person, a man, right? Meaning any man. From the seed and the descendants of Aaron, Vehu Tsarua, he has Tsarua, he has the skin disease of Tsaras, right? Some people translate leprosy, which is not, but it's similar to it. Oizav, or has a seminal discharge. He should not eat from holy offerings until he becomes pure. So he has to purify himself. Similarly, one who touches anyone who has become ritually defiled, because he came in contact with a dead person, or a person has a seminal discharge, right? It's going to be continuing in the next verse. It's a run-on sentence to the next. So verse number 4, Rashi, Mizera Aaron, from the offspring of Aaron, HaKoyin. This is speaking about the Koyin. Eliela Zarai, I only know of his offspring. Gufa Minayim, where do I know of himself? From where do we know that this law of the verse applies to Aaron himself? Because usually it would speak, about him and his offspring. Here it just says, from his offspring. So one might think that the Kohen Gadol may perform a service when he's an Oinen. Oinen is someone who is lost someone on the day that that person passed away and the day of burial, they have a status of an oinen. Yakri Yisrael Azav. They may also perform the service of the Mitzvah and the Zav. Talmud Laimar says, Vahu, and he. Aha. There's the verse over here. Vahu Tsarua, and he is got this state of being, has tsaras or so on. So he, um, in singular form, includes Aaron. Adashi Yitar until it becomes purified via Shemesh, which means was going to the immersing in the mikveh and the sun setting. Or maybe it just means after immersion. Which one? Because it says until it becomes pure. It doesn't say when is that, right? Here it says we're purified, and later on it will also use the same word purified, and there it says about Shemesh v'Tayir that the sun set, then it becomes purified. So just like later on, it means sunset, and you're not purified only when you go to the mikvah. You have to wait till the sun sets, and then you become purified completely. I've come to Hashem says here again, often, right? That's called a Gzera Shabbat. Two words, commonality between the two verses in different places. We connect them, and there it says when the sun set, that's when he becomes pure after his immersion. So it means here too, even though it didn't say it. Why wouldn't the verse just say it? Because that way it's part of our process of being involved in figuring it out what the will of God is by the connection to Torah verses. Sorry. Hold on, nefesh, an impure soul, so it didn't say. It said you're impure, but you're impure for what? Remember, there's different kind of impurities. So since it says b'chol tamei nefesh, he became defiled by a nefesh, a soul, which is also used for the word person. So that means he became in contact with a human corpse, as opposed to an animal, right? A carcass of an animal. Guess what? Next verse is speaking about the carcass of an animal. Or he touches, right? The Kohen touches a carcass of a crawling creature, which he becomes himself defiled, impure, or a person or through a person who himself is defiled, and they come in contact with that person, right? The call to Masai, he becomes to all of his impurities, right? That's adding something, all right? Because all of his impurities, what does that mean? Gave specific impurities. Now we're saying all of his impurities. Let's see Rashi. Any creeping animal of which he became impure, bishir hadroy letame, with the fit quantity to transmit an impurity. Kavadasha through the volume of a lentil. It said, because it said, the word says, any creeping animal, ashayit maloi, that will defile him. They didn't have to say that that will defile him. Because the whole sherets, right? That's what we're speaking about. So it means anything that's capable to defile him, even the size of a lentil, which is very small, right? of the carcass. Oy ba'adam, or a human bemes of a corpse. Oh, that's interesting. Hashiyit maloi, that will become, he can become impure, according to the minimum amount that transmits impurity. So kizayis, and that is the size of an olive. Chol to masay, whatever the impurity, the rabbis negeh bezav, bezav that includes all impurities. So what impurities are not mentioned here are a discharge of called a zava, nida, or a woman that is in menstrual cycle, but yoledis, or some woman who gave birth, right? And all those, there's a discharge. Those discharges make an impurity. Verse number 6. A person, shetiga boy, person who touches in him, in it, vitama, vitama, and it becomes impure ada erev until the evening. Lo yechal min hakosher. It shouldn't eat from the holy offerings, right? Ki im rachatz b'sarei b'mayim, but only when he immerses himself in his flesh in the water. Nefesh tiga boy be'echad min atmeim halalu. In one of these previous mentioned ways that you defile yourself, right? Except um, right at the evening. So whether it's the evening of the first night, if it was touched the carcass of an animal, if it was a human being that was a corpse, then it's the night of the seventh, after going to the mikveh, and actually also having sprinkling of the red heifer, right? First, number of Shemesh, and the sun will set, Vitaya, then he becomes pure, right? So not enough that he goes to the mikvah, he has to wait till the sun sets. Then he can eat from the holy um, uh, offerings, because it's his food. Rashi in 7. He eats afterwards of the holy. Nidras Yavamas is explained in the Talmud. Betruma, speaking about truma, right? The 2% that you give to the kohen, so he can eat that. Shemot alocha is permitted to eat the erev Hashemesh when the sun sets. Mina kachim, from that which is holy. The low cold kachim, but not all, because it says from the holy. If it meant all holy, it would have said kachim. Okay, shoot. Okay, we're verse 8. We're not going to finish it off, unfortunately. Um, we have everybody able to follow good? Well, all right.